The lighting isn't very good, but that's okay. What was I gonna say? Ooh, let's talk about um, how do I say? The inner work that you need to do in order to become a more holistic being. I think a lot of us try to overly concentrate on being optimistic and positive, but we need to be realistic about it and realize how one sided that is. And I think with anything in life, in order to maintain balance or to have some type of healthy connection, you're going to need two components together as a whole to be complete. So if you're only concentrating on being positive and optimistic, but then you're not willing to face the darker aspects of yourself, then there's going to be a lot of conflict. There's going to be a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of chaos. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of people think that I'm like the happiest person ever. Like, oh my God, you're so happy. How are you so happy? Um, Realistically, I'm not always happy. And I think I had to go through a lot of dark, like, they call it dark night of the soul, or you can call it like some kind of crisis, existential crisis, midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. They're all labels, they're all names to describe basically the same feeling when you're going through like a pretty heavy transition, like when you're facing yourself and, um, transitioning to a new way of being. Because every time like you acquire a new piece of yourself, you transform. You know what I mean? How do you do this? How do you do this work really? And it's a lot of work. It's not for the faint of heart. And if you're there's a lot of like issues you need to contend with, like a lot of fear-based programs that have been impressed upon you through social conditioning, um, through your personal experiences. So there's a lot of like fear-based stuff. There's a lot of like I think that's what it is. It's fear based. Like, feeling insecure, feeling not worthy, feeling of not accepting yourself because you're supposed to meet this expectation when in actuality, everything about you is beautiful and everything about you is necessary in order to be, create you. Like if you took away the dark, then you wouldn't really be you. And if you took away the light, you wouldn't really be you. You'd need both, you know? Um, and if you look around, nature like mimics it. Like nature is a telltale sign. It's the predominant messenger all around us all the time that's showing us like how to access this balance within ourselves. But like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. A lot of people run away from it because it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. And then on top of that, like a lot of time you feel isolated. So you basically like don't have any support or um, like for me, like when I was going through like a dark period of my life, yeah, people could try to like lift my spirits or they could offer advice, but they didn't really know what I was processing. They didn't know what I was going through. And yeah, I appreciate their efforts, but it's not really going to get me anywhere. I have to get myself there, you know what I mean? It's like definitely like a path that you need to take on your own by yourself, and it's a path less traveled. Like I think nobody really talks about it, like I think they hint at it in spiritual books, but nobody really like goes into detail because it's just so individualistic and everybody has their own like individual path that they need to proceed upon. But it takes like a insurmountable amount of honesty. Like be honest with yourself. Like, own up to the things inside of you that you've been hiding or pushing on the side or neglecting or failing to like acknowledge. You know what I mean? Because yeah, everybody wants to like show that side to them that's like so happy and beautiful and you know all those cool words, you know, but when it comes down to like really getting down to the nitty gritty shit and grind of things, like nobody really wants to deal with that. It's like you made a mess, but you don't want to clean it up. You're waiting for someone else to clean it up, but no one's going to clean it up. You have to do it. And yeah, it's deep and it's dense and it's frightening and it's scary and it's like navigating through terrain that no one has ever really talked about before, you know? And you're doing it on your own. And it takes a lot of like perseverance and resilience. And it's not, again, I can't stress, it's not for the faint of heart. Like it takes a huge amount of courage to face your own shit. But that's what you need to do in order to become a more holistic being and to access the best and highest aspect of yourself. I mean, life is always throwing curveballs at you, right? And I feel like the more you grow and know yourself and accept yourself and love yourself and care for yourself, the easier it gets to navigate through these things, you know? But the more you resist, the more you resist, the more it persists. I know that was really corny, but I heard someone else say that and it makes total sense. Like the more you resist it, the more it persists. And I think like initially, like these, you get messengers or you get messages, right? Messages that kind of like go, hey, you got to work on this, you know? And then, you know, it's so subtle and it's so quiet that, you know, we a lot of us don't even hear it, you know? And then you just kind of like go along and just keep on, you know? And then, you know, somewhere down the line, like it gets like a little louder, like it goes, hey, you got to work on this. And then I think it gets to the point, like people just keep pushing it to the side, until it gets to like a big slam down, you know? Like that's why like they say like usually like people like have an awakening when like a tragedy occurs, but you don't have to wait till it gets to that point, you know? If you nip it in the bud like early on, then it's just so much easier. But I guess everybody's different, and some people need the hard knocks. Some people can hear the subtle voice, you know, and then attend to it accordingly. But I think a lot of people, they can't even hear the inner voice because they're just so distracted and immersed in this material world. And I'm not saying like the material world is like not necessary. It's definitely like the perfect playing ground that provides the right opportunities for you to grow and evolve and ascend and know thyself. But yeah, it doesn't have to be nearly as difficult. I think we make it difficult. Maybe we like the challenges. I don't know. I know I like challenges. So initially, yeah, I was faced with a lot of challenges. But now that I'm learning to like integrate the dark and the light together, it's just so much more surreal. Like, I have like a higher understanding and a higher acceptance and knowing of the happenings around me, and I don't really fight it, you know, I just allow it. I allow everything to be, you know? Yeah, so that was my ramble for the day. So yeah, it's cool to be optimistic, but I think if you negate the dark aspects of yourself, then you're just kind of like crucifying parts of you that really need your attention and really need to be brought to light, you know? Yeah, so I know like I think we've been socially conditioned too to always put on this like fucking facade, like, oh, you know, smile. But like unless it's genuine and sincere, then you're not really being genuine or sincere to yourself, and you're definitely not being genuine and sincere to others. And then, you know, a lot of your relationships and interactions are built on really like unsteady foundation. You know what I mean? Like there's no solidity to it because you're not even being honest with yourself. And you're not even being honest with others. So how can you really have an honest and true and worthwhile connection? You know? And it does start with you. So whatever um, relationship you have with yourself, it pretty much is mirrored in the relationships you have outside of yourself. So for instance, for a long time I was a people pleaser. I think I wanted acceptance because I couldn't accept myself. And I hated myself and I doubted myself and I didn't think I was worthy, or I didn't think I was like of any value. And so I would partake or participate in relationships or attract people to me that would show me that, until like most recently, I started kind of like finding my voice and speaking up and saying, like, I will not accept that kind of like treatment or that kind of behavior. And, I was willing to walk away from the relationship if the people didn't like decide to like adjust themselves and grow with me, to match my frequency. Um, yeah, and I have no problem doing that. Like, if people are going to mistreat me in any way, shape, or form, I don't have like the tolerance that I used to, because I accept myself and I know what I'm worth. I know my value, and I'm not going to let someone else treat me otherwise. So I think, like I said, you do the inner work, and then everything just kind of like falls into place and in alignment. And I think that's what we're striving for, whether we are aware of it or not. Some people haven't even questioned what the meaning of life is, and that's what it is. I believe that to be true in my heart. Um, some people like don't even care what the meaning of life is. They just kind of go day by day and they just do what they do, and that's fine too. Like, maybe that's where they're at. I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to crucify. I was probably there at some point. But yeah, so in order to like really cultivate true peace and happiness and grace and love, um, to a higher degree, I think it starts with you and what you allow and what you don't allow and what you accept and what you don't accept, and how you view yourself, and then you attract people who view you the way you view you. So I don't know if you've noticed, but like people who are really shy or meek, they're just like shy and meek. They don't want to like tell people like whatever, because they're afraid. Well, they attract people who are like bullies, right? Like people who like stomp on them and use them and take them for granted. It's because these people are showing them areas within themselves that need to be acknowledged, and areas that you need to shift into, becoming more of yourself. And I think once these people like get to a point where they're tired of being like abused and mistreated, and they finally go, hey, I'm not gonna accept that from you, and they decide to disconnect and walk away, that's when you start like making positive shifts and integration into your life. I don't know if anything of what I said made any sense, but yep, that's my take on integration and the problem with being overly optimistic, because you absolutely need to accept the darker aspects of yourself. Yeah. So, like, when you're negative, like, don't crucify yourself for feeling that way. I mean, that's obviously a sign that, there's something in you that needs your attention. It's been crying out for you to pay attention to it. So, like, whenever you're triggered, like, say, like, things set you off or make you angry, like, that is, like, a telltale sign of something that you need to attend to. If you're depressed, like, all these negative emotions pretty much give you the opportunity to kind of like self-reflect, so that you can understand and know and accept yourself more seriously. They're not here to hurt you, really. They may feel uncomfortable, but they're not here to hurt you. That is not their like predominant motive. It's to kind of like wake you up and go, hey, look at me, I'm here, and you need to like understand me and acknowledge me and accept me, so that you can integrate that aspect of yourself. You can become a more holistic human being. Anyhow, I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop it. But I like to say blessings to one and all. Amen.